Metal and rubber on the asphalt tonight. Speeding through chaos in the setting light. Hit the brakes and brace, crash and race, cause it's a glorious sight. Tires, skids and sparks flying in the fray. Engines roaring as we twist and sway. Every turn and edge of an epic play. In the world of racing we come out to play. Oh, we love the sound of tearing steel. Crashing race cars in this pack. Feel the rush that makes the heart beat fast. In this mad race where nothing is real. Gunning the throttle, no time for fear. In this gray smoke we disappear. Chasing shadows in the blur of fear. Crashing race cars make it loud and clear. We're the kings of the asphalt might. Stars in the dark of the roaring night. Crashing race cars, eyes closed tight. We live in the blink of sight. Oh, we love the sound of tearing steel. Crashing race cars in this pack. Feel the rush that makes the heart beat fast. In this mad race where nothing is real. Gunning the throttle, no time for fear. In this gray smoke we disappear. In this gray smoke we disappear. Chasing shadows in the blur of fear. Running the throttle, no time for fear. We're the kings of the asphalt might. Stars in the dark of the roaring night. Crashing race cars, eyes closed tight. We live in the blink of sight. Oh, we love the sound of tearing steel. Crashing race cars in this pack. Feel the rush that makes the heart beat fast. In this mad race where nothing is real. Tire skids and sparks flying in the fray. Engines roaring as we twist and sway. The smoke rises to clear the way. In the world of racing we come out to play. Metal and rubber on the asphalt tonight. Speeding through chaos in the setting light. Hit the brakes and brace, crash and race, cause it's a glorious sight.
Good time zones, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rudskogen Motor Center, right here for round number 6 of the Tube Frame Twister series, right here on the iCast Racing Network, powered by iRacing. Tonight we have some incredible racing in store for you. And as always, before we do get to that, let's go back to last week where these incredible drivers took on Oslerben. As you see here, the number 9 brings the field to the green with Stephen Lee, the newcomer. Only his second weekend, right on his back bumper, as they quickly get single file in the first 7 or 8 cars. But it did not take long for some beating and banging to start. As you see here, Michelle Cook gets rear-ended, and then a couple more beating and banging between these 4 here near the back. And this is pretty much all that has happened over last week. After this, they all went down and settled down. And of course, just about 13 laps in, Keith Nelson Jr. on this front straightaway looks to make the pass for the race lead on Ryan Ronchell as he comes in into turn number 1 unable to fully commit to that, unfortunately. And then on the very next straightaway, as you see, Nelson makes that run on the inside and then makes the pass as Ryan Rodshell gets extremely loose right after the pass. And that is all they wrote for the coffee man, Keith Nelson, as he brings that Folgers Chevrolet across the start-finish line for his 4th win of the season. And now we are live back here at Rudjokin, as we have quite a few competitors already out here running laps. So without further ado, let's take a look at our current drivers out on this race course. And first, we are going to take a look at Stephen Lee in that number 25 or 24 Goatify machine. As always, we have Michelle Cook in that number 66 machine. She's looking to put on a very strong performance here today. Ryan Rodshell in that number 5 machine today instead of his normal 9. We are unsure why we have a number change for him, but that's all right. We believe he's going to be fast as always. Doug Cawley in that number 88 Pro Forged Chevy Monte Carlo. He is out here turning laps. And those who have not seen the track yet, we've got the 011 of John Willett, Daniel Masson in that number 610, and last week's winner, Keith Nelson Jr. All these drivers are looking to make some sort of impact this week. So, as always, the question will be, who can beat Keith Nelson Jr. in that Folgers 00? Time will only tell. And as we are getting ready to close up here on qualifying, let's go ahead and take a look at our race info for today. These drivers are going 30 minutes around this 1.69 mile speedway. Runs Nugent Motor Center. The track temperature is 104 degrees with the air temperature at 78 degrees. We have 45% humidity in the air. We are partly cloudy with a 2 mile per hour wind. Surviving this speedway, again, all these tracks that we have gone, you got to know the characteristics of each and every track. Without that, you are going to have a lot of issues. Keep your eyes up. Again, a lot of blind corners at this racetrack and a lot of elevation changes, so you must always keep your eyes up. And this is a major rhythm track, just like the last 2 weeks, especially as you see heading over into turn number 4, 5, and 6, which is your S's. If you don't got rhythm there, you got a lot of issues. So hopefully these drivers will keep it all on track so that they can keep facing forward and get this all said and done. And hopefully somebody can outrun Keith Nelson Jr. in that Folgers 00 machine. So he obviously will be the one to watch today. Alright, we have just about 45 seconds left here in practice. As we take a look here at Keith Nelson Jr. coming down this long front straightaway. We apologize about that. We got to get our crew to wipe off that camera. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that will end our race. I'm sorry, our practice session. We are going to go ahead and transfer over to qualifying. Currently, we have 8 drivers here scheduled to take to the track. And it looks like Stephen Lee will be the first one to head out of the pits to take on this fascinating, complex racetrack. In his number 24 Gotify street stock. Again, these are not your normal road course race cars, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very unique track and car setup. And it is not normal to see these type of cars on road courses, but here we are. We are running round number 6 of the Tube Frame Twister, the League Series. And these guys always put on a phenomenal show. As we take a look here, and sorry about that. Alrighty, and Stephen Lee will take the green flag for his first qualifying lap. As you see him get up on those curbs going through turns 1 and 2. I'm not sure if jumping the curb like that in turn 1 will be beneficial, but that remains to be seen, and we'll see what kind of lap times Stephen Lee can put down. Let's come back here and take a look at the 011 of John Willett in that solo street stock machine. John Willett has been pretty decent in most of his showings here with Tube Frame Twister, and he is looking to better his finishing position this week. Daniel Maston in that number 610 machine. He has been putting on a good show with Michelle Cook. And Daniel Maston in that Valvoline Ford Thunderbird. That paint scheme definitely makes his car stand out compared to the rest of his competitors. And the number 5 of Ryan Rochelle coming to the start-finish line And he puts down a quick time of a 33.65, which is just a couple tenths faster than Stephen Lee. Let's ride on board here briefly with Michelle Cook and that number 66 machine as she exits turn number 1. It heads down this straightaway that goes downhill into a heavy braking zone. These drivers got to keep their cars under control in these braking zones, especially that downhill run. And let's jump back up here with Doug Cawley in that number 88 Pro Forged machine. He is currently sitting third on your charts with a 134.9, and that will put so far 5 cars that have put down a qualifying lap. As Doug Cawley comes out of the final corner to the start finish line. Let's see if he can better his lap time, which he cannot. Daniel Maston, he's coming out of the final corner as we speak, and let's see if he can better his lap time from a 137.5. He brings it down to a 136.7 around this track. And John Willett as well is now bringing it around that final corner. Flying down this front straightaway, looking to better his time of 138.5. And he gets it down to a 137.6. That's a better lap time for John Willett. Well, hold on to it, David, as he woes it in his number 32 machine. David Sylvia looks to be making his two-frame twister debut here with us today in that, like I said, that black number 32 machine. That car is awfully shiny. I like it. As he loops it around and holds it down, and he will reset himself to the pits. Stephen Lee coming back out to finish his qualifying run. I think he's just turning laps at this moment just to get used to it, as he was it down, heading down into turn number 3. And we have a second newcomer this week, James Johnson, in that number 63 Busch red, white, and blue Chevrolet, as he makes his way down the hill into the heavy braking zone. Every single week we have newcomers coming into this series, as this league is absolutely a blast to run and a blast to watch. We have skill levels of all types here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to road racing and want to run the street stocks around these tracks, please come on out, enjoy it with us. you see James Johnson coming now to begin his first qualifying attempt, but we are going to run out of time. So this lap might just be more of a practice lap for him in that number 63 machine. And we would like to welcome James Johnson and David Sylvia, both to Tube Frame Twister the League. As he manhandles that throttle around this sweeping right-hander. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, 15 seconds left as he makes his way around. Like I said, he will not be able to complete this qualifying lap, which is alright, ladies and gentlemen. 30 minutes of racing about to commence. We are excited. We are going to line them up down on the racetrack. And as these drivers get ready to roll with the iRacing Pace Truck, again, we want to thank iRacing so much for allowing us to use our flagman Barney and our pace driver Fred. Both of these drivers have been employed since 2008 with iRacing, and these guys never miss a day of work. They are on call 24/7, ladies and gentlemen. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our starting lineup for round number 6 of the Tube Frame Twister of the League. Starting on the pole is Ryan Rodshell in that number 5 machine. Onto his, sharing the road with him, it's going to be Stephen Lee. Doug Cawley and Michelle Cook will fill in row number 2, teammates in row number 2. Daniel Maston is going to share the row with John Willett in that 011 machine. Our 4-time winner, Keith Nelson Jr. in that 00 will be starting in that 7th spot in row 4. And he will be joined by James Johnson in that number 63 machine. David Sylvia in the number 32 machine will share row number 5 with Daniel Hersey in that number 10 machine. 10 drivers are ready to rock and roll here at this phenomenal racetrack. I'm over here pressing a bunch of wrong buttons, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's not right on board with that. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan Rodshell, Stephen Lee on the front row once again. Doug Cawley up in that number 3 spot. Michelle Cook in that 4th spot. And Daniel Maston in that 5th spot. As we are not showing a couple drivers out on track. David Sylvia and Daniel Hersey did not come out here on track. So we will only have 8 cars begin this race here. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, these drivers are now getting their tires warmed up. They are all ready to go. As you see Fred bring that pace truck around the final couple corners here. And we are about to go green. And the pace truck is off. It is now in the hands of Ryan Rochelle and Stephen Lee. And the green flag drops here at round number 6 of the 2 Grand Twister in the league. And Rochelle gets an early jump on Stephen Lee. But Stephen Lee stays right on his back bumper. As we see Michelle Cook get into the side of Doug Colley as they pull it out of turn number 2 and look right behind them. Here comes Keith Nelson Jr. in that 00 Folgers fire. I don't even know what car that is anymore. Camaro. As they are sitting here, and we've got a battle brewing up here between Ryan Rochelle and Stephen Lee for that race lead. These are 2 of the best drivers in this league at the present moment. As you see in the background, Keith Nelson Jr. is stalking the number 88 of Doug Colley. But we are going to keep our eyes right here on the race lead for the moment. As these 2 settle down, let's go ahead and come back here and take a look at Doug Colley and Keith Nelson Jr. as they make their way around the final corner to come towards that long front straightaway. Nelson is jumping it sideways as you see Michelle Cook get into the grass coming out of the final corner. And here comes Nelson looking to take a peek on the right side, but he goes and backs it down, heading down into turn 1. I think he's just waiting to see if Colley is going to make a mistake and see if he can prance on that. But as of right now, and we have a problem here with Michelle Cook as she slows out of turn 2 and she allows Daniel Maston to go by. Let's come back up here for our race lead. These 2 drivers giving it all they got through these Zesses. Like I said, this is a very technical portion of the track, and it makes a big difference on if you are fast or not. Ryan Rochelle gets a little bit sideways coming through that combination, but he's able to keep it straight. And it looks like Keith Nelson Jr. is still sitting down back behind Doug Colley. Looks like he may be having a little bit of trouble getting around Doug this race. And here comes Stephen Lee to the inside of Ryan Rochelle. And Ryan Rochelle goes a little bit wide, but he's able to keep that race lead for the time being. 27 minutes now remaining in this race. And Ryan Rochelle's having issues. What in the world? He almost came to a complete stop. Oh, this is big for Ryan Rochelle as he comes down pit road with some sort of mechanical issue or something on that number 5 machine. And that hands the lead over to Stephen Lee in that number 24 Go-To-Fi Camaro, as he's sitting out here with a decent run. And race lead currently over Doug Colley and Keith Nelson Jr. Doug Colley is giving Keith Nelson Jr. a good run for his money this week. Can we have a first-time winner in Stephen Lee, or another racer, as the only other winner of this series, which was Ryan Rochelle? If he can make some sort, if Doug Colley can keep Keith Nelson Jr. behind him, it is going to be an incredible run as Doug gets sideways out of that corner. Right about the same issue where Ryan Rochelle had an issue, but he's able to keep it straight as both to get sideways once again. These drivers are giving it all they've got, dirt tracking it around these corners. Gentlemen, you are on a road course, not a dirt road course. Just a little friendly reminder. But right now, this is our best battle currently on track between, this is your race for first, almost 3 seconds ahead to Stephen Lee, but Doug Colley and Keith Nelson Jr., they are putting on a show as Keith Nelson Jr. finally gets that run that he's been looking for, as he gets on the right side of Doug Colley coming down the mountain, as these drivers slide it through this right-hander. And here comes Keith Nelson Jr. now, get around Doug Colley, and Doug Colley's going to do everything he can to keep him in his sight. Doug has been putting on a very incredible race so far in that number 88. He's able to keep up very well currently with Keith Nelson Jr., and that is something that you don't see every race, is these drivers keep up with these two faster drivers. But Colley has been learning, he's been watching, and he keeps getting quicker and quicker every single race. Let's come back here and take a look at a couple of our other competitors. We have John Willett getting loose, dirt tracking it. What an incredible save by John Willett in that 011 Solo Camaro. As you see Daniel Masson in that number 610 Valvoline Ford Thunderbird gets a little bit sideways out of the final corner there. And Michelle Cook having a really wonderful day up there in that number 4th spot. Let's come back here and take a look at James Johnson, one of our newcomers. He is just chillaxing back in that 7th spot. And David Sylvia, he is having a little bit of a struggle day today, this being his first race out here, which is all right, no problems. It does look like he's had a couple issues so far, as he loops it around once again, and he gets it facing in the correct direction. But let's come back here with our race leaders as they are coming up on David Sylvia. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Keith Nelson Jr. is right in about that striking distance. Stephen Lee needs to keep his nose clean. He needs to keep hitting his marks if he wants to keep Keith Nelson Jr. behind him. As you see David Sylvia head back down pit road. Oh, when the race leader gets sideways into turn 1, he cannot be doing that, because that just allowed Keith Nelson Jr. to close even closer to him. If he is not careful, he's going to spin himself out, and that will cost him the race lead. We still have a very long way to go in this race, as the battle for first is heating up. Last lap Keith Nelson Jr. was faster by a whole second. And right there, Stephen Lee had issues getting down in that corner, and it slowed both of them up. But that's not slowing Keith Nelson Jr. as he's got that coffee brewing. And he's starting to smell that coffee, and he knows once this race is over, he's going to go enjoy some coffee. As they come back here, heading down into the final corner, Keith Nelson Jr. is staying right on the back bumper of Stephen Lee. When will he strike? As both of these drivers are quickly pulling away from Doug Cawley in that number 88 machine. Here they come through that sweeping right-hander to head down this long straightaway and down into that heavy braking zone. I believe Steven is starting to feel that pressure from Keith Nelson Jr. What an incredible run so far here for Stephen Lee. He was able to keep the coffee man behind him. This being Stephen Lee's only his third race of the season, has really shown that he is championship material in himself. As you see these drivers continuing to fight for this top spot, Stephen Lee gets just a tad sideways there. And this is once again, he gets a little bit sideways, and he keeps it straight. And sideways again he goes as they come towards the final corner. For 19 minutes remaining in this race, he kind of slips up the track just a little bit there, but he keeps Keith Nelson Jr. right behind him. With the way Stephen Lee is driving, it is making it almost impossible for Keith Nelson to find a way around him for that top spot. And he goes wide, and that opens the door. And Keith Nelson Jr. has finished his pot of coffee, and now he is just sipping on it as he now leads with 18 minutes remaining in this race. But now the question remains, how hard will Stephen Lee push to stay on his back bumper? And we are about to find out if anybody can beat the coffee man, Keith Nelson Jr. As we watch these two competitors here duke it out for this first spot. And just as expected, Keith Nelson Jr. is going to start to pull away and enjoy his Folgers coffee. And we will have to see if he can keep it straight. He has kept his car very clean every race so far with not many mistakes. I think I've only seen Keith Nelson jump sideways just a little bit, just a couple times throughout these races. Keith Nelson Jr. coming through that sweeping right-hander heading towards the downhill straight. Once again, he's putting on a phenomenal show here in the street stocks with the two-frame twisters. If you think you have what it takes to beat Keith Nelson Jr., ladies and gentlemen, sign up with two-frame twister, and let's see if you have what it takes to beat him. what a run by Keith Nelson Jr. as he continues to show why he is one of the best in this league. He is now up to a 4-second gap on second place Stephen Lee. As I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to join us next week, we are going to go to Summit Point. This is one of the tracks that a lot of these drivers are looking forward to, as the next two tracks are two tracks that are free for every iRacing member, and they can get a lot of practice on these tracks. After Okayama, we got Summer Point and then Okayama International, and then we're going to head over to Portland or International, followed by Watkins Glen, and then the one and the only Monza Autodromo. And then they're going to finish off at Sebring. This is a very exciting setup for this, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe I heard through the grapevine that they did add one more race, but I am not going to share that with anybody just yet. But with just about 13 minutes remaining here, let's go ahead and go through the field real quick. So we have Keith Nelson Jr. out front, followed by Stephen Lee in that Gotify Camaro. He's been very, very strong all race long, and especially been a guy to watch. Doug Colley in that number 88 Pro Forge Chevy Monte Carlo. He has gotten better and better every single race, and I can't say much more about him except how much he has improved himself. Michelle Cook in that number 66 machine, also for Colley Motorsports, or I'm sorry, Colley Racing. She has put on a phenomenal run today, right in that fourth spot. She's going to have a very strong point stay here, and she has been getting better and better herself as well, as with each and every race. Here we're going to catch up with John Willett in that 011 Solo Camaro, who's being hunted by Daniel Maston in that number 610 Ford Thunderbird machine. Both of these drivers have just about the same racing skill, and so these two drivers, usually you can find both of them together, and these guys are putting on one heck of a show here at Rods Gojin. As they prepare to come through the S's. As we watch these two drivers battle it out. Who's going to make the first mistake and who's going to come home in that fifth spot? I think that's what's going to boil down to for these two drivers. And we're going to catch up here with Ryan Rodshell, who's coming through that sweeping right-hander of turn 3 to come down towards the downhill mountain section. We are very unsure of what issues arose for Ryan Rodshell, but he had a major malfunction coming towards the final corner, and he's having issues again. It looks like he's having transmission issues, as you heard him struggle there. There is definitely something amiss with that number 5 machine. let's ride on board with him and see if we can possibly get a general idea of let's go ahead and get that turned down here real quick, ladies and gentlemen, as we ride on board here with Ryan Rochelle. It is very, very unfortunate that he's having issues as he slides through turns 1 and 2. As you see, he's just having a lot of issues with the throttle management on that machine. This is very unfortunate for Ryan Rochelle in that number 5 machine. And let's come back here and take a look at James Johnson in that number 63 Busch machine. He's just learning these cars as this is his first time out with us. David Sylvia back in that 9th spot. He has pulled it into the garage for the night. And same with Daniel Hersey. He came out just for a couple of laps, but he has also called it quits. But let's head back and take a look with our race leader as he comes around the final corner with 7 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in this event. He has now put a 10-second lead on Stephen Lee, and Stephen Lee has put a 10-second gap onto Doug Cawley. As we take a look here at Doug Cawley in the number 88 Pro Forged machine, and he's put just about a 10-second gap on Michelle Cook in that number 4 spot, who's put a 10-second gap on John Willett in that number 5 spot. However, Daniel Maston is not 10 seconds behind him. He is maybe 10 car lengths behind him. I think we are seeing something here, ladies and gentlemen. 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 car lengths. Let's see what we can do about getting this down to 10 feet. And then 10 inches, and then possibly a good pass. 6 minutes and 40 seconds remain in this event, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, this is our closest battle on track. As you see these, as Daniel Maston pushes to try to get on his rear bumper, but he makes it go super wide, and he will lose that 10 car length. But a little bit, he's actually gained a little bit there. Gained some of it back just going through the S's alone. So that was incredible there by Maston. The time continues to tick down. Daniel Maston is pulling harder and harder on that solo cup, but it's just not sure if that's going to be able to grab grab John Willett to his rear bumper, as Willett pulled away by about 20 car lengths on that run. And Daniel Maston will spin it in turn 1. He will get it faced and back in that correct direction. And now there's a 6 seconds gap now between these two drivers. For the final 4 minutes and 40 seconds, as you see Nelson Jr. come out of the final corner. I can see him just sipping on his coffee under that helmet in his 00 Folgers machine. I am telling you guys what, Keith Nelson brews some Folgers coffee and places it in his gas tank instead of putting gas in there, because he's running on Folgers, and I think that's what's making him faster. I think we definitely need to get that checked out. As you see him coming through that rough right-hander, as something that you don't see on a daily basis. Keith Nelson Jr., he is getting ready to put Ryan Rutschel a lap down. This is something that you don't see. 3.5 minutes remaining. As you see, once again, Ryan Rutschel having mechanical issues in that number 5 machine. He is just struggling with that machine. He probably changed his gearbox or something under that hood. As you can see him just struggling very much in that number 5 machine. Hopefully he will have better luck next week when we go to Summit Point. Summit Point is definitely one of those fun racetracks. It is a short track. It's got a lot of curves, a lot of momentum. Got slow corners, got a couple fast corners, and it's going to be an amazing show next week. And we cannot wait for that. Look at Keith Nelson Jr. just whip around these corners like it is nothing, ladies and gentlemen. 2 minutes now remaining in this race. I believe when he comes back by, we may just get that 1 to go signal. I'm sorry, the 2 to go signal. And let's we'll come around here in just a moment. And we're going to check with the officials. And we will have our final lap. The white flag now flies. The white flag waves for the coffee man, Keith Nelson Jr. One more lap around this racetrack. Nice and steady for Keith Nelson Jr. as he exits turns number 3 and comes down this downhill long straightaway into that heavy braking zone, as he gets just a little bit sideways. Keith Nelson Jr. out of Findlay, Ohio. We have learned that Keith Nelson Jr. has been working with some of these drivers and giving them pointers on how to drive these cars on these road courses. So we definitely want to thank Keith Nelson Jr. for showing us how it's done and giving us tips on how to be fast. But until somebody can gain better traction, I don't think we're going to see anybody else in victory lane as Keith Nelson Jr. comes through the final two corners. And ladies and gentlemen, round number 6 will go to none other than the coffee man himself, Keith Nelson Jr. in that 00 Folgers Camaro. Once again, what an incredible run by Keith Nelson Jr. And we're coming back here to Stephen Lee. Here we go as he comes out the final corner. Stephen Lee, once again, will come home second in his Gotify Camaro. Doug Cawley in that number 88 Pro Ford Chevy Monte Carlo will bring it home third. Michelle Cook will come out of the final corner to bring it home P4 in her number 66 Monte Carlo as well. What an incredible run for her. And these two drivers still duking it out here in the final corner. But it looks like John Willett will bring it home in that 011 for that 5th place. And Daniel Maston in that 610 Valvoline Ford Thunderbird will come home 6th. Ryan Rochelle will bring it home 7th. And James Johnson, welcome to Tube Frame Twister. We hope you had fun today. Hope to see you next week as James Johnson here will bring it home 8th. Ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible run for Keith Nelson Jr. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a look and let's go ahead take a look at our race results. Keith Nelson Jr. in that 00 Folgers Racing machine will bring it home first for his 5th win on the season. Stephen Lee back in second in his 3rd start with us from the Kentuckian Sim Racing League. Doug Cawley out of Cawley Racing at number 88 will bring it home 3rd. Michelle Cook in the number 66 Cawley Racing Monte Carlo will bring it home 4th. John Willett was able to hold off Daniel Maston for that number 5 spot in that 011 Kentuckian Sim Racing League machine. And Daniel Maston will bring it home 6th in that 610 Dan's 3D Toys Monte Carlo. Ryan Rochelle, very disappointing run today for him as he had a lot of mechanical issues. He will bring it home 7th. Newcomer James Johnson will bring it home 8th in that number 63 machine. Newcomer David Sylvia will bring it home 9th in that 32 machine. And Daniel Hersey in the number 7 machine, he will bring it home 10th. Before we call it a night, let's see. Retrieve data. That's there, that's there. That's before. just one moment here, ladies and gentlemen. As this should. While I am trying to get this all sorted out over here on my end, ladies and gentlemen. Import. Next week. Retrieve. Send data. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we will head over to Summit Point. Let's take a look. Hopefully this will update to our current points, which it did not. Give me just one moment. Let me get this. Try to get this all set up. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I am unable to successfully get our championship point standings to adjust. But however, the points that you do see on screen, this is just about where they are, with a big change for Ryan Rochelle, as he may give up that second spot to Doug Cawley. But we will have to check that out next week when we go live from Summit Point Raceway. We hope to see everybody there, and I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, happy time zones.
This has been a production of the iCast Racing Network, powered by iRacing. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget to like and subscribe for notifications for all of our live events right here on YouTube and Twitch. We would like to thank SDK Gaming for their production overlays that makes this event enjoyable. Until next time, happy time zones.